everyone. Thanks for joining us again. Judy and I were, we've been talking about SUTS, and as part of that comes, registrations and what happens because it's a central point. It's supposed to be a central point of registration, central point of remittance, but we have, seen some registration issues and concerns. And so we just thought we'd, spend a little bit of time and kind of talk about what we've been seeing, right?
Right.
So I don't know, Judy, if you want to kind of kick off what
Yeah.
what
Well,
you're
I
thinking
think the
about.
biggest concern is it's all fine and good that you could get to remit all your taxes through SUTS, which is the sales and use tax system for Colorado. It is going to integrate with every home rule city, of which there are 71. So rather than going to each of those separate 71 websites or filling out 71 extra forms, you're going to be able to upload information to Colorado and put your tax in the right bucket. So you give it to the state, you give it to the county, you give it to the city, the town, whatever, if it's a home rule. And so instead of doing like, here's the Colorado stuff and here's Aspen or Boulder or Fort Collins, you have to go on theirs and upload your sales data there. So it becomes very redundant and sort of inefficient, right? So hopefully you can put everything in one place, give all your remittances to the Colorado SUTS system. They'll disperse the money to the cities and the towns. They'll assure that you filed timely. They'll give you that tracker as to the date stamp of filing, and the cities will be good to go. And you don't have to go separately to each city individually, which, will cut your compliance in half because, we're 71 times harder than any other state in America because we don't accept all the locals. So that will be a huge benefit to companies. Unfortunately, the question is, what do you register, right? What if you were doing business in Fort Collins or Denver is a great one because it's such a big city and we have a lot of people who it's a bulk of our population. Denver, Thornton, Boulder has a fairly populous area. Aurora, fairly big cities in our state, but you might even be doing business in Aspen or Grand Junction. So if you don't think about like you've already been selling into those cities and you already had maybe a duty based on a prior law, the old laws or the main laws, which are physical presence nexus, and now you've got this economic duty. If you file tomorrow, should you have filed 10 years ago? So it's really important to understand what your footprint was in a home rule city prior to registering for such, just to make sure that you don't register late because you're going to have a date certain. You activate SUTS for that city, that's your license date. That's when your statute starts. Anything prior to that, no statute, no protection, no remediation. Done. And we don't know what the cities are going to do with late taxpayers. So, for example, if Lakewood or Denver knew that you were a company doing business in their city, which they troll around and look at trucks and see labeling, and they look at buildings and see what signage is outside. They go door to door to office buildings and see who's in there and say, you need to get a license here. So this happens. They know who you are. They audit your customers. They see your names on invoices. So don't think that they don't know that you might or might not have been doing business in their city prior to the SUTS registration date. And if that is significant or material, you really need to take a step back before you get a future registration to understand what that risk looks like. Let me give you an example of a client of mine who registered recently in the city of Denver. They should have registered maybe 3 years back. Didn't realize, didn't know. So they registered late to the party. Their invoices were seen by a Denver auditor at their customers, many customers they sell to. They realize it's a Denver address. They know they should have had a license in Denver. So they look them up and they say, oh, that's weird. They got registered in 2020. But I see invoices for this company way back to 2019, 2018, 2017, because I'm auditing their customer. And what happens? They come after you, the customer that just licensed in July. So they say, well, why didn't you do anything 3 years ago? And you say, I don't know why I didn't. And we talk about it. We call me, Meredith, and we go, you probably should have done something. But because you registered, there ain't nothing we can do. So then what happens? You get an assessment for all the tax they didn't pay. So it's $60,000 some of these clients owe out of pocket. It's stressful money. So that's why I just say it's very important to understand what you did prior in a city of Colorado before you just wholesale register for SUTS and just activate a license everywhere.
Well, and then I was just thinking about this is kind of what happens if, And if you were to individually go out and license yourself in those 70 plus jurisdictions,
Yes.
you sign it and say, under penalties of perjury, this is the state I started doing business.
Yep.
But if you upload your information into SUTS and you give Boulder their money without a license and they assign you one, are you affirming anything under penalties of perjury under your date?
I think you affirm. That's a very good question. I would assume that once you activate it, there may be a little bit plausible deniability, but you still started with a date certain. So I think you still are, they've got to put a date in for you. So they're just going to say your statute starts today.
Yeah.
So you do run a risk for that. Remember, we had this issue. This is previous life, statutory cities. So we used to have location-based reporting, right? So you're in a location, you come in my store, you buy stuff. Well, who does that anymore? So many businesses do business everywhere and still have a duty to collect tax. They don't even sell everything out of their storefront. They don't even sell it off their dock. They just ship it to you and you put it in service, right? And so we went ahead, remember this, we activated all these localities in Colorado because we said you're sort of leasing assets everywhere. You should just go ahead and set it up. You can get the tax to all the statutory cities in Colorado. What happened? 3-year look back for every single one of them. Remember that? We got $50,000 notices. Every month, the state just made it up. Where's the 50,000? Where's the 50,000? You haven't filed in these cities for the last 3 years. You haven't done returns. And the system auto generates the notices. We had to actually make some calls to people we know to get that shut down. Like, look, we just decided to turn it on. We know we don't really have a duty to collect it, but we know the law is kind of changing. So we're just going to go ahead and voluntarily collect it. But don't shame us for not doing something 3 years ago because we didn't have to, but they don't know that. So those are the things that can really happen if you go in blindly to just auto setting up everything in SUTS. And that's what we just want to make sure people are thoughtful about. Nothing is ever easy when it comes to tax.
Nope, especially in Colorado.
Everybody wants a list. Everybody wants a little checkbox. But it's important to just understand your facts, understand your issue, understand your business and how you get it, and then manage accordingly. Because the government doesn't know anything. They just assume you owe everything. So those are the things I think are important for us to be thinking about as we advocate for our clients and we manage our risk and cost, honestly, right?
Right. So I think what that means is, if you're having questions and you don't know what to do, reach out to us. We can help you understand what your business has done, and then, continue to follow us as we follow the evolution of what's happening with Colorado, with SUTS, with the registrations, with the home rules. So,
we're happy to have an hour phone call for free. I mean,
absolutely.
We love to learn what you're going through as business community. We don't know every business in the community. I've worked with over 2,000 clients in my career of 26 years, but there's always new businesses, right? And there's always new issues, and you're unique. So it's just important to understand your facts and how to apply them to the laws in the jurisdictions in which you're doing business. And now in Colorado, you're doing business everywhere. You're doing business at the statutory, what are there, 283? There's like 683, I feel
there's
like, jurisdictions in total, but like 283 have a tax, right, in Colorado. And then you got the 71
else. There's counties that, counties don't always have the sales tax and whatnot, or the use tax. So it's not easy.
No.
And so
it's important to kind of really get with an expert who understands those issues to help navigate that based on your unique business facts, right?
Exactly. So keep following us at saltovation.com, and thanks for stopping by today.